Hello, viewers. I'm Group Captain Rajesh Pandey, an air veteran with over 31 years of varied experience in the Indian Air Force. I have served as a fighter controller, an interviewing officer, and as head of training division at Defense Institute of Psychological Research. I welcome you to Find Your Lakshay, a talk show where I interact with famous and accomplished defense veterans from different specializations from the armed forces to help you find your Laksh. Today, we're going to meet one of the real top guns of the Indian Air Force, an accomplished fighter pilot and a path-breaking test pilot with more than 5,000 flying hours clocked on aircrafts ranging from the Hunters, Mirage, and to the F-16. He has been a part of the team that tested and evaluated the Light Combat Aircraft, or LCA Tejas as we know it now. He's also the first pilot in the Indian history to drop a laser-guided bomb at enemy positions that changed the course of the Kargil war. Please join me in welcoming Air Marshal R. Nambiar. So thank you, sir, for coming on this show and sparing your time.
Thank you.
So if I may ask you, sir, what is firstly, of course, it is an honor to host you for this show. And what would you say was your motivation in finding your, Laksh or your motivation to join the services?
Thank you for hosting me this morning. I'm honored to be with you. I was motivated to join the Indian Air Force because of the fact that I was born into the Air Force. My father was an Indian Air Force officer. He was a navigator flying Canberras. And I was born into the environment of the Air Force with jet sounds heard almost every day, from morning to evening, and even at night. And thus it was but natural that I would look up at the sky and see the people around me flying aircrafts, jet fighters, high speed, the blue sky, everything which I would now want to aspire to be a part of. And that's how I joined the Indian Air Force.
Okay, so when you say you joined the Indian Air Force, what was the initial step? NDA?
Yes, I finished my 11th standard, which was the minimum required to join the National Defense Academy, and thereafter appeared in a UPSC selection procedure, which included the SSP, a written exam, a medical test, and a merit list which decided who among us were to join the National Defense Academy at Khadakwasla. This was in August 1977. Just about 4 months after I had finished my CBSE exams, which I had completed in May. Those were very exciting times. I was joining the 58th course of the National Defense Academy, and I joined as a general cadet with the thought process of joining the Air Force, because I had appeared in the PABT and passed. Therefore, I was eligible to become a pilot. The National Defense Academy course lasted for approximately 3 years. Exactly 3 years, in fact, and very challenging. It put me through the paces of being a soldier, a member of the armed forces, and built up a bunch of friends which have lasted me my lifetime. Sort of camaraderie that we enjoyed, our ability to make ourselves from young boys into officers and gentlemen was definitely influenced by the National Defense Academy. And that's how I finally passed out of the National Defense Academy in May 1980, and then went on to join the Indian Air Force at Bidar, where we did our elementary flying training school, or EFTS. This is located at Bidar, and that's where we first started flying powered aircrafts. In the NDA, we had done, in the last 6 months, we had done a bit of gliding and such like, but these were very, very, a small segment of what we were trained for in NDA. The training in Bidar was extensive. It was fully focused on flying and the various subjects involving flying, like aerodynamics, meteorology, airframe, and all the other subjects which go hand in hand with aviation. After 6 months in Bidar, we were, the whole course, those of us who made it, this is the first time we flew an aircraft solo. This was the HT-2, which was one of the first Indian aircrafts to be made by HAL, and it was a propeller aircraft with a single engine and a twin cockpit in tandem formation. That is, the instructor sat in the rear and the trainee pilots sat in the front seat. It didn't have any ejection seat. We used to carry parachutes, and the aircraft was difficult to fly. Even experienced instructors found it tough, and we as cadets found it double tough in that sense. It was a tailwheel aircraft which has its own unique challenges, but we managed to graduate and we reached uh, AFA. Along the way, we lost one of our officers in a flying accident. It resulted in the aircraft being grounded for some time, and also solo flying from then onwards was totally ceased in the Indian Air Force on the HT2 in our subsequent courses. At AFA, I was privileged to fly the Kiran, which is a jet trainer, again a two-seater, but this time side by side with the instructor sitting on your right. It is a wonderful aircraft, again designed and developed by HAL, and based somewhat on the British Jet Provost fighter trainer. Uh, we flew for about 70 hours in that aircraft in the 6 months period that we were AFA. And having graduated from AFA, we were given our wings and commissioned to the Indian Air Force. This happened for me on the 11th of June 1981. After this, we were inducted into Hakimpet, which was then called as the Fighter Training Wing, or FTW. Hakimpet is just about 20 kilometers away from AFA as the crow flies, and we spent 6 months there graduating on the Iskra TS-11, which is a Polish fighter trainer. This aircraft too was very interesting. It flew very much like a fighter, in the sense that you had an ejection seat, you were sat in a tandem configuration with your instructor behind you, and it had a gun, and it had all the paraphernalia required to call it some sort of a pocket fighter. We flew about 100 hours on this aircraft, and some of the challenging exercises which I recollect very vividly was a spinning exercise on this aircraft which we did solo. After the Iskra, we continued on to the OCU, or Operational Conversion Unit. Some of us went directly to the MiG-21, some of us went to the Hunters. I was sent to Hunters at Kalaikunda, 5 wing, where we trained for about 30 hours and another 6 months. At which stage we graduated onto the MiG-21s. And I was posted to my first fighter squadron, that is 21 Squadron, the Ankush, which was then flying the MiG-21 BIS, which was the best MiG-21 variant at that point in time, and was located at Pune. That's how we became fighter pilots. Very interesting, very challenging, and definitely extremely gratifying.
So that is your journey of a Maverick, shall we say? Thereafter, the MiG-21, you would also fly different British aircrafts and British or French aircrafts. So can you just take us through their journey, and then ultimately, how did you get into the test flight?
Okay. After I joined Pune, that's when we first got posted to a proper fighter squadron. We flew there. I flew in Pune for about 4 years, at the end of which I was posted to Bhuj, which is in the west, very close to the border with Pakistan. At Bhuj, I was barely there for 6 months when a posting signal came announcing that I had been deputed to go to the Mirage 2000s. This happened in the end of 1985, and in March 1985, I joined 7th Squadron, which was then equipped with the Mirage 2000 and was the first Mirage 2000 squadron at Gwalior. The Mirage 2000 was a fly-by-wire aircraft, very modern, with proper air defense as well as ground attack capability. Rather unique at its time in terms of its ability to fly at all times, day or night, and in all weather, with a very good air interception radar. Very importantly, the aircraft was fly-by-wire, which meant it was very agile and was capable of flying against any of the aircraft which Indian Air Force had or even the enemy had. That was its unique capability. I was there in the Mirages for almost 5 years. I became a master on that aircraft, flew it in various conditions and various operations. I was privileged to be a part of the detachment which was involved in the Operation Pumalai, wherein the Mirages, escorted the AN-32s when they dropped relief supplies to Jaffna, where we were at that point in time supporting the LTTE, which was boxed in by the Sri Lankan armed forces to the northern part of that peninsula of the island. Thereafter, I was fortunate enough to go to the Maldives during Operation Cactus, where we flew in the Mirage 2000 from Gwalior to Trivandrum late in the evening, and thereafter deployed over Maldives, flying over there to show our presence and to wave the flag to make sure that things were in control and in hand. And we even helped in the operation which resulted in the entire island chain getting sort of brought under control and the rescued from the raiders, and if you may recollect, the enemy ship, the Progress Light, which is trying to escape, which was caught by our Navy. All this was a part of the Maldives operation. Therefore, I had about 5 years of experience on the Mirage 2000 when I decided to opt for the test pilots course. Now, the test pilots course is a deviation from what the Indian Air Force normally does in the squadrons. As a fighter pilot, you were focused fully on operations, while in test flying, you were focused towards testing and qualification and certification of aircraft. These are different tangential paths which do not have much to do with each other. A fighter pilot flies an aircraft established to the limits of what the test pilot decides in terms of what are the limits, what are the speed limits, what are the height limits, what are the G-force limits. Everything is decided in test flying. And therefore, in test flying, you're required to go beyond those limits and prove that there is a sufficient margin of safety before the aircraft is released for exploitation by the average pilot. In the test flying fraternity, you're expected to fly multiple types of aircrafts, be they transport aircraft, twin engine aircrafts, aircrafts with high wings, low wings, aircraft with a wide variety of performance capability, aircraft including the helicopters, a wide variety of fighters. And what happens in this is that you are now looking for a different set of traits than what you expect in normal fighter flying. In test flying, you are expected to be very adaptable to any cockpit that you are in. You are expected to perform as if you had a lot of experience with limited experience, which is some sort of an oxymoron. You are expected to do things much better than what you would normally be expected to do, and thereafter identify deficiencies and problems in the platform rather than look at living with it. This is a change in your philosophy of approaching an aircraft. Any pilot, a fighter pilot or a transport pilot, looks at the platform and sees how he can best utilize it to achieve what he is supposed to do. As against which a test pilot approaches an aircraft to try and find out what are the deficiencies and how these can be overcome by putting in adequate design features or suggesting design improvements, or probably, if there is something which cannot be done about it, listing it as a problem area which is brought as a caution or as a warning to other pilots.